the Democratic and Republican side of the aisle. Today, what happened here in this building really stands as a testament and a contrast to the chaos and the confusion that we see coming out of Washington, D.C. Folks in D.C. have forgotten who they were sent there to represent. They've turned public service into a zero-sum game, too focused on who's winning, who's losing, which side is getting hurt, and which side is doing the hurting. That's not what I went into public service about, and I know that's not what many of the folks behind us went into public service to do. But let's be clear, that kind of attitude is exactly why Americans hate politics. As the governor and I have crisscrossed this Commonwealth for the last year, we have heard from Pennsylvanians all over that they want us to take off our red jerseys and our blue jerseys and to put on the Pennsylvania jersey to get stuff done for them and their families. That's why we've worked so hard to do with this budget. And even though it really took us some time, we may be a little late, more time than many of us would have liked, we've managed to bring Republicans and Democrats together to deliver an agreement where everybody gets something. And this is the way that compromise works. Nobody gets everything that they want. But I want to be clear, Governor Shapiro and I, throughout this process, held true to our values. We refused to accept cuts that would have been devastating. We stood up for working-class Pennsylvanians. The governor and our administration stayed at the table this entire time, and we delivered. Ultimately, I think this is a great budget deal for the people of Pennsylvania. Folks in Washington, D.C. really should take some notes on what's happening right here in Pennsylvania. We're providing for some of our most vulnerable Pennsylvanians, our seniors, our working poor, the people who provide direct care and teach our young people and give them opportunities to learn. We're making our communities safer by supporting local law enforcement and violence prevention efforts that are working to drive down rates of gun violence and crime here in Pennsylvania. And we're continuing to invest in our kids' schools to create ladders of opportunity for every child in Pennsylvania, no matter what zip code they live in. I'm grateful for the work put in by Governor Shapiro and the leaders of all four caucuses to get us here today. The road has been long, but the journey was worth it. It's my pleasure to introduce my friend and governing partner, Governor Josh Shapiro.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Davis. Today is a good day. Madam Speaker, thank you for joining us today. Leader Bradford, Leader Costa, Chairman Harris, Chairman Hughes, I want to thank you for your steadfast leadership. And I want to thank each and every member of the House and Senate who join us here today, who have fought every single day to get a great budget to my desk, a desk that is over here and we're about to sign in a few moments. I want to thank the members of my cabinet who join us today. Your commitment to excellence, your commitment to the people of Pennsylvania is unparalleled, and I'm so thankful to you. This day, of course, has been a long time coming. I proposed my budget 281 days ago, a budget that was laser focused on continuing the progress we made over the first 2 years of our administration, on fueling Pennsylvania's rise by investing in great schools and creating more opportunity for our children, by expanding our workforce and growing Pennsylvania's economy, by cutting taxes and reducing costs for Pennsylvanians who work so hard. I would have loved to have stood here in this room with all of you on June 30th. But as you know, Pennsylvania is just one of only 3 states in the country with a divided legislature, where a majority of votes in the Republican-led Senate and a majority votes in the Democratic-led House are required to get that budget to my desk. It requires all of us to compromise, to have tough conversations, and ultimately to find common ground. I worked hard all summer and all fall to get the leaders in the General Assembly to come together and hash out their differences. As the Lieutenant Governor said in his remarks, we stayed at the table. We refused to accept inaction, We rejected short-sighted attempts by some on the other side to cut healthcare services and slash critical initiatives, because my top priority has been delivering a budget that makes a meaningful impact on the good people of Pennsylvania. And today, because all of us here held the line and stayed at the table and demanded a serious budget that meets the needs of Pennsylvanians, well, today I'm about to sign into law a budget that delivers for Pennsylvanians and builds on the great progress that we have made. Let me be clear, this is a balanced budget that cuts taxes, that makes critical investments, that protects 100% of Pennsylvania's rainy day fund, and still leaves us with $8 billion in reserves. Let me walk you through what this budget means for the people of Pennsylvania. This budget builds on the progress we've made to be able to deliver better schools and more opportunity for our kids, because I believe every single child deserves the freedom to chart their own course and the opportunity to succeed. And that opportunity starts in our Pennsylvania classrooms. Look at what we've done here together over just the past few years. It's working. As a result of the investments we've made, 778 schools in Pennsylvania have been able to expand mental health services and hire counselors because we made it a priority to protect students' mental health. We served 93 million free breakfasts to Pennsylvania students last year, 11 million more than the year before. Today, there are 3,000 more Pennsylvania students who are enrolled in career and technical education courses. And we're putting more teachers in our classrooms and expanding resources available to our students. Graduation rates in the Commonwealth are finally on the rise. Consumer Affairs now ranks Pennsylvania as one of the top states for a quality public education in the entire country. It's a hell of a lot of progress that we've made together. And this budget builds on all of that. It again increases funding for basic education and special education. It continues that commitment to feeding kids a healthy breakfast. It offers mental health services in our schools and fixes our school infrastructure. And for the third year in a row, this budget also directs more dollars to the schools that need them most through what we call the adequacy formula. In fact, we increased that fund this year by $565 million. And we finally reformed our cyber charter school system in Pennsylvania. Now listen, if a parent wants to send their child to a cyber school, that's fine. That's their prerogative. But we shouldn't be overfunding them at the expense of Pennsylvania's public schools. This historic reform that we all worked on together will save the Commonwealth $175 million that we can now plow back into our public schools. That's something that Harrisburg's been talking about for years. We got it done, Madam Speaker. At the same time, together, we are increasing funds for FIA grants so more Pennsylvania students can get financial aid and afford to go to college if that's the path they so choose. And for our youngest students, this budget invests in something known as structured literacy, which puts a renewed emphasis on teaching them to read well and training our teachers to teach them how to read effectively. It increases funding for pre-K and early intervention programs, allowing us to hire more pre-K teachers and supporting those kids who need just a little bit more help. This budget also builds on the great progress we've made on workforce development, starting by creating a new initiative to give at least $450 in recruitment or retention bonuses to child care workers all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You know, today, there are 3,000 child care centers here in Pennsylvania where we have vacancies. We're not just talking about that problem, we are doing something about it by getting more child care workers into our classrooms. I know the LG worked hard on this, and I appreciate his leadership. This budget also strengthens our teacher pipeline by increasing our investment in the student teacher stipends, a wildly successful initiative we began just a couple years ago. As a result of last year's investment of $20 million, we were able to pay stipends to 2,000 student teachers, putting more teachers in the classrooms with our kids where they belong. This year, we weren't satisfied with that. Instead, we increased it to $30 million to ensure that student teachers get paid for their hard work. That's another 1,000 student teachers who will get paid for their work and get in the classrooms to help our kids. This budget doubles down on the work we've done to increase wages for direct care workers who take care of our most vulnerable neighbors. And on top of this, we're continuing to invest in apprenticeships, in VOTEC programs, in hands-on education initiatives that we've been purposeful about bringing into our classrooms. My administration is once again delivering $183 million for career and technical education apprenticeships, a 50% increase from the time we began our work together. This budget continues Pennsylvania's economic rise, cutting taxes for our businesses and investing in sites and innovation in the main streets that form the beating heart of so many of our communities. Under our administration's leadership, Site Selector magazine named us now the top state in the Northeast for economic competitiveness. Forbes rated us one of the best states in the country to start a business. And Moody's analysis showed that Pennsylvania is the only economy in the northeastern part of the United States that is growing. That's all because of the work we have done together to make Pennsylvania far more competitive. This budget continues the investments that have been critical to our resurgence. Look, we all know that agriculture is central to our economy, so we're building on our commitment to our farmers by fully funding the PA Farm Bill and providing $10 million to help our farmers adopt the latest technologies through the first ever Ag Innovation Fund, the first ever in the country. By fully funding the Pennsylvania Farm Bill and providing that money, we're looking out for our farmers. And listen, let's be real. At a time when the federal government is cutting funding for our farmers to feed people, we are strengthening the ties between our farmers and our food banks, providing $11 million more for food security and support for hungry Pennsylvanians. And when disaster strikes, we will be there because this budget ensures funding will continue to be available to respond to high-path avian influenza outbreaks and other emergencies that our farmers face. Tourism is also central to our economy. And next year, the eyes of the world are going to be on our Commonwealth as we celebrate 250 years of democracy in the place where it all began. We will celebrate together not only our democracy, but we'll celebrate the NFL draft, March Madness, the PGA Championship, the FIFA World Cup, MLB All-Star Game, and a whole lot more. Those events are going to be huge drivers of our economy and tourism and economic activity as millions of people will descend upon Pennsylvania. This budget invests $50 million to help make sure that we are prepared and safe next year as we welcome the world to the birthplace of democracy. And for those who aren't visiting, but those who make up the fabric of our communities, we're investing a whole lot more in our small businesses, in our main streets, and our historically disadvantaged businesses here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It continues our investment in site development, making another $175 million available to help companies create shovel-ready sites to build on and expand here in Pennsylvania. And it cuts taxes once again, lowering the corporate net income tax for the third consecutive year under our collective leadership. Back in 2022, when I kicked off my campaign for governor, our corporate net income tax was 9.99%. When I sign this budget, it will be reduced to 7.49%. We are cutting taxes for Pennsylvania businesses. And this budget continues the important work we've done to move at the speed of business, as Secretary Siger likes to say. We went from being one of the worst states in the country when it came to permitting. Now today we are a national model. We've done that with a money-back guarantee system for your permits if we don't issue them on time. And we've eliminated the backlog of all permits, which used to slow down the system. And my compliments especially to DEP for their hard work in that area. Now this budget builds on the success we've had. It expands DEP's speed program. It codifies part of our Pennsylvania Payback Initiative, and it creates a new public dashboard to be able to track your permits. This budget also delivers $16 million in new funding for more staffing at DEP so we can move even faster and at the same time protect Pennsylvanians' constitutional right to clean air and pure water. But look, we got a lot more work to do to grow our economy. And what we do on energy next will be a big part of that. You know, for years, the Republicans who've led the Senate have used RGGI as an excuse to stall substantive conversations about energy production. Today, that excuse is gone. It is time now to look forward, and I'm looking forward to aggressively pushing for policies that create more jobs in the energy sector, bring more clean energy onto our grid, and reduce the cost of energy for all Pennsylvanians. It's time to get it done, and I know we can. Let's get to work. Look, cutting costs on energy is just one part of our agenda to reduce the burdens on Pennsylvania's families. Let's be real. Federal policies are driving up people's costs here in Pennsylvania. In my first 2 years, working together, we have reduced costs and cut taxes for Pennsylvania's seniors, families, and businesses. Together, we delivered the largest targeted tax cut for seniors in nearly 2 decades, resulting in 522,000 seniors across Pennsylvania getting more than $319 million in tax cuts just last year. Together, we worked and tripled the child care and dependent care tax credit. And this year, we are cutting taxes again, helping working folks, helping working folks who are struggling just to get by. Under the budget that I am about to sign, we will create a new Working Pennsylvanians tax credit that will put about $193 million back in the pockets of hardworking folks trying to take care of themselves and their families for next year. I want to say to all of the House members, especially who are here, you have Leader Bradford and Speaker McClinton to thank for this. They pushed hard at the table to get this done, and we got it done. And listen, it was a collective effort, but here's the thing. Folks have been talking about this for years and years and years in this building, but we got it done. This tax credit that, again, goes to people who are working and struggling to get by. It complements an existing federal earned income tax credit. Let me break this down for you and explain how it works. If you're a single mom with 3 kids who makes about $60,000 a year, you could get up to $805 back in your state tax break next year. And 940,000 Pennsylvanians will now qualify for this new tax cut, putting money back in people's pockets, particularly people who are working and trying to get by. This is a big, big deal. Now listen, I know you all have heard me criticize the Republican budget that passed in Washington, D.C. I criticized it because I knew it would be bad for Pennsylvania, and we're already beginning to see the effects of that. It's going to knock about 500,000 people off of their health care, close rural hospitals, and a whole lot more. In this budget, I want you to know this group standing up here resisted efforts to kick more people off of Medicaid and make the situation even worse. We believe in taking care of our neighbors, just as Mr. Rogers told us to. And at the same time, we also secured important reforms to help lower our SNAP error rate. and that's going to protect 2 million Pennsylvanians who rely on SNAP for food assistance. At a time where the federal government is rolling back funding for groundbreaking research, instead Pennsylvania is stepping up. Look, one of the most heartbreaking problems that our grandmoms and grandpops and others face are neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and ALS and Parkinson's. I know there are members of this body who have lost parents to those terrible diseases. I wanted to just take a moment and to say thank you to Representative Kyle Mullins. Representative Mullins is here, and we spent a few minutes in my office earlier today thinking about his father, Michael, who's no longer with us, who succumbed to ALS. He used his power to get funding in this budget to look out for people like his father. And Representative Mullins, I want to thank you for your leadership. Representative Mullins and Representative Cutler, who lost both of his parents to ALS, fought to make sure that this budget includes $5 million in research grants for research institutions studying these neurodegenerative diseases. Look, here's another way the federal government is hurting Pennsylvanians. They're walking away from vital disaster response funding. So how did we respond here in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania way? We brought Democrats and Republicans together to double our funding for emergency preparedness here in Pennsylvania. I know from my visits with some of you to Tioga and Bucks and Somerset and Berks counties and so many communities across this Commonwealth who have been hit by disaster, I know you understand how sorely needed that funding is. And I want to thank you for stepping up for our fellow Pennsylvanians. I know we all agree that all Pennsylvanians deserve to both be safe and feel safe in their communities. That's why I made a commitment when I was running for governor that we would fund 2,000 more police officers across this Commonwealth. Now with this budget I'm about to sign, between municipal police and state troopers, we have secured the funding to put nearly 2,000 more police officers on the beat in our communities. But we also understand that preventing violence in our communities requires a two-pronged approach. It requires hiring law enforcement, and it also requires, and we've seen this under Lieutenant Governor Davis's leadership, to make a point of investing in community-based violence prevention programs, sports programs, after-school activities, church groups, mentorship programs, apprenticeship and workforce training opportunities, and more. And consider this, what we're doing is working. As a result of these two-pronged investments, violent crime across Pennsylvania is down 12%, and fatal gun violence is down 42% across our Commonwealth. And listen, if you've been a victim of crime, I know that even 1% worth of crime is too much. That's why we are not settling. We're going to keep working at this, and we're building on that progress by investing an additional 10% in violence prevention funding in this budget. Look, this budget includes a whole lot of priorities that are close to my heart, the Speaker's heart, and everyone's heart up here. From feeding our neighbors, to helping our kids chart their own course in life, to making sure we create opportunities for workers and students and business owners. But this budget also includes one item that is really personal for me, and that is a $7 million line item representing a $2 million increase in the much-needed funding that's been asked for so many years by the Harrisburg Bureau of Fire. Chief Enterline, who I spoke to just a little bit ago, and the firefighters of the Harrisburg Bureau of Fire, well, they were there for me and my family when we needed them most. Every single day, the firefighters across Pennsylvania, and they run toward danger to keep the people of this community safe from harm. I so respect them and appreciate them, and them together with their sisters and brothers in uniform, from those who walk the beat to those who bear the seal of the Pennsylvania National Guard. They are the best of us, and we fund their needs in this budget. They're all lifted up in this budget. Budget isn't just a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet. It is a statement of our collective priorities. It's about investing in the needs of people now and investing in their futures. It's about finding ways to incorporate the needs of people from all different walks of life in our Commonwealth, rural, urban, and suburban communities alike. It's about finding a way in this divided government to compromise without compromising your values. We managed to do just that. I said at the outset of this process that I knew one thing to be absolutely certain in the final budget deal, that to pass a budget, everyone was going to have to give a little and understand the perspectives of others a little bit better. We did that here. And as a result of our collective work, the good people of Pennsylvania are better off. So once again, we showed here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that we know how to get stuff done. Thank you all very, very much. Speaker, for you. Great job. Media here?
Governor,
Yeah.
what was,
How will your administration help the schools and the counties that have to take on debt to keep services going during this 4.5
Zach and his colleagues in the budget office working together with all other areas of this Commonwealth government are get the dollars out as quickly as possible and get into the school coffers immediately. Yes, Dennis?
What is the cyber charter reforms that you're talking about? Is it giving state money to districts so they can pay the bill? Because you had talked in your budget of wanting to cap those tuitions. Did we not do that? Can you explain a little bit about what those reforms are?
In effect, we believe these cyber charter schools have been taking an amount of money that was not needed for them to operate their schools. That number was artificially high, we believe. And so in effect, what we've done is we've returned, in this case, $175 million to start, back to our public schools so that students who are going to those traditional brick and mortar public schools would be able to get their fair share of the funding, and cyber charter schools could continue to operate effectively. Tom?
Governor, what do you say was the breakthrough that helped make this happen? And for everybody who's watching, why did it take so long?
We stayed at the table, and we all stood up for the things that mattered most. Look, I could have stood here on June 30th and brought you a budget that looked really different, that didn't have education funding, that didn't focus on our workforce development, that didn't have a tax credit for working families, that didn't fund the needs of our farmers, and a whole lot more. I think the key when you're in these positions, and I know the leaders feel the same way, is staying at the table, staying true to your principles and values, but also understanding the needs of the folks on the other side who got elected by a different constituency and represent a different particular point of view. We stayed at the table, we continued to dialogue. Sometimes that dialogue was me running back and forth between Leader Pittman and Leader Bradford. Sometimes it was Leader Pittman and Leader Bradford having conversations. Other times it was a larger group. And I have to thank the Speaker and the Pro Tem when they joined our conversations. I think it was last week or maybe 10 days ago where we were doing two-a-days. It was like Eagles or Steelers training camp, and we were doing two-a-days, really trying to drill down on the needs each caucus had, but most importantly focused on the needs of Pennsylvania. I think all that helped us break through. And then each step of the way, things can kind of blow up or get off the rails. And I just tried to keep us back, communicating and staying on the tracks as much as we can. I think, Leader Bradford's got a hell of a challenging job trying to find 102 votes in the House, and Leader Pittman 26 votes in the Senate. And I recognize and respect how difficult their jobs are, and so part of my job was to help them each be able to be successful in their caucuses while meeting the needs of the people of Pennsylvania.
Governor, one of the Senate no votes in criticizing the bill today before she voted no said there's a $7 billion difference between the spend number and the actual revenue for the Commonwealth. Are you concerned going forward about?
I mean, I would, whoever this senator is, say, go look at the comments of your leaders who understand this is a balanced budget that cuts taxes, that makes critical investments, that doesn't touch the rainy day fund, and leaves $8 billion in reserves. I know that there are some people in this building that love to talk about the banty around words like structural deficit. Folks, Democrats and Republicans came together and voted for this balanced budget. And they voted for balanced budgets each of my 3 years as governor. We are in a strong fiscal position. Most other states are running deficits. We've got an $8 billion surplus, and we didn't tap into the rainy day fund, and we managed to make investments and cut taxes. I think that speaks to how well we all work together to get this done. So if there's a few voices on the fringes, I understand that, but take a look at what the leaders of both caucuses, of all four caucuses of both parties said here. Balanced budget, cuts taxes, makes important investments, and protects the rainy day fund.
Governor, you're going to get transit next year?
We're going to continue to work on transit and other priorities that aren't in this budget. I know we all had to accept compromise. Transit remains a critically important priority for me and each and every member who's standing up here.
What comes after Reggie as far as climate goals?
I introduced the lightning plan. I want to thank Chairman Committa, who's here. I know she's backed a number of pieces of that legislation in the Senate. I know she's going to drive that legislation forward there along with others, and the leaders here in the House will continue to push that forward. I think the lightning plan is where we need to be, and think of it, it's an example of a plan that has the support of the building trades, has the support of environmental groups, has the support of industry. I think that's a really good starting off point. I've had some really direct conversations with the Republican leaders in the Senate about the need to finally act on energy. We haven't done anything big on energy since the Rendell administration. The time is now. Energy presents, to me, I believe, the thing that sets Pennsylvania apart from any other state when it comes to economic competitiveness. And I think we need to harness our energy and our natural resources, do it in a way that protects our public health, our public safety, our environment. I think we could do all of that and create lots of jobs and bring down the cost of energy for Pennsylvania families and businesses. The time to act is now, and I believe as this budget proves, as the other budgets prove, as our work on criminal justice reform proves, as our work on Sunday hunting proves, and so much more, that we can actually come together and do big things in Pennsylvania, and we're going to continue to do that, and energy should be next.
Governor, you mentioned this budget won't necessitate tapping into the rainy day fund. Do you expect to need additional revenue sources next year in order to not?
I'm signing this year's budget. How about you give me a minute? It's a balanced budget that sets us on a very, very strong path for the future, and we're going to continue to work in this vein, in a vein that puts money back in people's pockets and makes critically important investments. Thanks, everybody.